Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
You wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Air. Air, released in 2023, directed by Ben Affleck, the history of the game-changing partnership between a then undiscovered Michael Jordan and Nike's fledgling basketball division, which revolutionized the world of sports and culture with the Air Jordan brand. So right when this movie was announced, I was so excited to watch it, and then for some reason, it just faded out of my memory. I forgot it even existed. I was supposed to watch it so long ago. And then I was just scrolling through Prime, and I actually saw it, and I said, you know what, I think it's time that I watch this. I didn't expect too much of it. I've actually never experienced Ben Affleck as anything more than an actor. I did know he directed. I forgot that he directed this one. So I didn't know what to expect going into it. I knew I would enjoy it because I'm a big basketball guy. So of course I love Jordan. I love seeing the history, the whole documentary process of it. So I knew I was going to like it to a point, but I didn't know how it would be as a movie in itself. But I was pleasantly surprised. Honestly, this is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. So I'm very excited. Let's just get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. So because this is based off of a true story, there wasn't much wiggle room with the plot itself. But I think the way that they did it, in sort of a documentary style, but also a drama style, is really good. I love documentaries because I like getting more info on these things visually instead of reading it. So whenever I watch a documentary, I'm enjoying myself because I like finding out new things. And especially when it comes to basketball like this, being able to see the history of such a revolutionary thing that happened in the past. But because they kind of had that drama aspect also added into it, it made it for an even more enjoyable watch. So I have to say, with the plot, I found myself engaged the whole time. I was even planning on maybe watching this whilst multitasking, doing something else, just because I didn't have a lot of time. But I ended up dropping that and just only watching it because I was just so intrigued with what was happening. So plot, 100% they did really, really well. The second essential aspect is attraction. So this is actually something the movie definitely thought of correctly and did really well. Because obviously if you like basketball, if you know Michael Jordan, if you like his history, if you like all these things, you're going to like this movie no matter what. And that's what kind of worried me when it came to a movie reviewer's standpoint. I wasn't sure how I was going to react. If you don't like basketball, you're not going to like this movie. There's a lot of movies like that. But no, this one actually, somehow they made basketball take a back seat. And it was obviously an important part of the plot. But it wasn't such an important part that if you didn't know anything about it, the movie would become worthless to you. Now, this focused a lot on Nike's point of view and what they're doing to try to get Michael Jordan to sign up with them and just change the whole game of shoe brands. So you don't have to know anything about basketball. You can sit down watching this, never seen a basketball game in your life, never touching a basketball, and you'd get the same kind of enjoyment. Now, I like that because it doesn't minimize the audience that this will reach. It maximized it. So if you like basketball, great, you'll love this even more, but even if you don't, you'll enjoy it. So I think they did a really good job with that. And when it came to the little comedy they did throw in here, I'm sure like that part wasn't true based off the story, but they still did a really good job. It felt natural. It felt like the jokes were put in the right time, and they didn't overload it where it just became too silly or too cringy. The jokes were there, included to get a laugh out of the audience, and because there was so little of them, anytime one happened, it did at least crack a smile. So I think attraction they definitely ticked off. The third essential aspect is theme. The message I feel like this movie was trying to bring to the audience is definitely trust your gut. Even if your gut has failed you before, it's more important to do what you believe in than stop doing it because someone told you to. Because Michael Jordan wouldn't have signed up with Nike if they didn't trust their gut. Because Sonny himself literally put all his eggs in one basket, made a massive gamble, put his career on the line to try to get Michael Jordan. And it worked. Obviously, that doesn't always happen. It showed his previous gambling endeavors where he was losing all the time, and trusting his gut didn't work. But all it takes is that one win, and it makes up for all the rest of them. So that's really the message that's coming across, and that relates to a lot of people. I know it relates to me a bunch in real life as well, so that's definitely the message they were trying to bring forth towards the audience. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. Another thing that this movie did really well is the dialogue. I mean, the conversations felt real. There wasn't any weird sounding conversations between two people that just didn't feel like a real dialogue or anything. Like, it felt like real people talking. It felt like I was watching a piece of a life that actually has happened exactly how it happened. So dialogue, nailed it. The fifth essential aspect is acting. So I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but another thing that this movie did well is the acting. I mean, they chose great actors, especially since at the end of the movie they showed what these people looked like in the actual scenario that this movie is based off of. And the actors do have a stunning resemblance to the real people. So I think they didn't only choose great actors that knew how to act, but also ones that resembled enough to the real people to make that illusion kind of come to life. Which, very impressive. I know a ton of true stories that pick just anyone that can act, even if they don't really look like them. So it's even more impressive if you can find both. And one of the actors was Matt Damon, who played Sonny. He was the main character in this story. He was the one that really wanted to push and put all his chips on the table to get Michael Jordan involved with Nike, and his acting was really good. Sometimes Matt Damon's acting isn't the best. It's kind of just there. It's passable, but honestly, in this one, he did really, really well. His character was probably the most convincing character that I've seen in this movie, so I have to give him credit where it's due. Jason Bateman, who played Rob, he also had that same kind of feel that Matt Damon had with Sonny. He felt like a real person. He felt like the actual character himself. And obviously he didn't have as much screen time as Sonny did, but I still think he did an equally as good job. I feel like he matched the actual person that was a part of the story really, really well, and he looked like him too. So again, that's a big plus. We also have Ben Affleck, who played Phil. Now, I think his acting was good in this. He did convince me that he was this person. And obviously, since this is based off of a real person, I can't tell if it was just Affleck trying to be too cocky or too funny, but I don't know how the real person was. Maybe he was like that and he played him perfectly, but that was the one kind of part of the movie that sometimes cringed me out, was something that his character did. So whether that was just a part of the story or if that happened in real life, whatever it is, that's just a nitpick of mine. Honestly, it didn't bother me at all, other than a few scenes here and there, but I thought I'd mention it. And Viola Davis, who played Mrs. Jordan, Michael Jordan's mother, she also played a big part of this story. And I think everything that she said was very meaningful. So yes, it could be the writing, but again, she looked just like Michael Jordan's mother, so it just made it more real. When I watched Last Dance, I saw MJ's mom, and honestly, when I saw this, it did look very similar, and it didn't make me more convinced of this story. So again, credit where credit's due. And I also wanted to mention, even though it was acting, but kind of not, Damian Delano Young, who played Michael Jordan in this. Now, it was weird because they never actually showed his face in this movie. They kind of just showed the back of him, the back of his head, kind of his shadow. They never wanted to show that Michael Jordan wasn't playing himself, obviously, because he's much older than his young self in 1984. But I think, honestly, just the subtle movements and emotions he's had while playing, because he barely talked, you didn't see his face, so it was pretty easy to act in that role. It's kind of just a placeholder. But the subtle movements he did in those scenes did resemble Michael Jordan. Now, they chose a great person to play a young version of Michael Jordan. He had the same physical look, the same hair color, or style, So it really did convince me that was a young Michael Jordan. They could have just CGI'd a young version of him, but instead I think this was the proper choice to make it look more smooth, to make it look more realistic, and again, captivate that audience in the acting. So those are all the ones I wanted to mention, but no one did a bad job in this movie. I think everyone excelled in where they needed to. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. So when it came to the emotions, you are invested in these characters. You want Sonny to actually sign Michael Jordan. You know what happens based off of real life, but you want to see the process. You want to see what happened. You are completely invested in this movie. So they did tick the emotional off really, really well. When Sonny was down, you felt down. When he was excited, you were hyped up for him. So they did a really good job with that. And when it came to the visuals, again, it wasn't going for any cinematic masterpiece. So it looked good. However, I did think they did a good job making it look like 1984. The era did resonate with me. Now, they showed a montage at the beginning that kind of showed the best bits of 1984, which helped you get into that mindset. But either way, I think that even if they didn't show that, it would resemble 1984 to me. So I think that they did a good job all around with cinematography wherever they needed to do it. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So this movie was an hour and 51 minutes, and honestly, I think it might be too short. I loved this story. Now, maybe that's just me. I was so intrigued. When I saw that there was only 10 minutes left, when I looked at how much time was left, I was upset. I was hoping that there was going to be like another half hour at least, just to keep the story going. I wanted to know more. I wanted to find out more. I wanted to keep following these characters and their whole story. So that, I mean, at least they did the hour 51, so thank God. But they could have done longer, honestly. And the pacing was good. It ended, obviously, how the real life ended, so it was cool to see that. I also loved when true stories actually go over all the real characters at the end, so I'm glad they included that as well. And how I mentioned the montage of 1984, I definitely think that helps you get into the mindset at the beginning, and it's cool to see everything from that era to put you in that mindset. So I think that was another neat editing trick that they included in the movie. So overall, editing, I think they did well. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. Now, I know there was songs from the 80s that they included in here. I remember them very vividly. I, however, don't think it's really too memorable. It is good in the moment to have that, to not just have dead sound, just nothing except the characters. I am glad that they included some kind of soundtrack, but again, it isn't something so memorable that I will remember forever what the songs are. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So I feel like it's the director's job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And the director of this movie was Ben Affleck, and he's previously directed 4 movies. And they were Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, and Live by Night. And I've never seen any of these movies. As I said at the beginning of the video, I didn't even know he was a director, but I think he did a great job. I wouldn't change the director of this movie because the point of view he had with this helped him make a movie that's really good. So 100% he was the director for the job. I have to see some of his other movies because I've never seen him direct, so I want to see what he did with the other ones. But 100% for Air, he was the man for the job. And the 10th essential aspect is time. For me, it will 100% stand the test of time just because I will always remember this movie as being one that I was excited for but wasn't sure I was going to go, and it blew my expectations away. So 100% this will stand the test of time for me. When it comes to others, if you're a basketball guy, you will enjoy this movie. It will 100% stand the test of time for you, and I will be watching this continuously for years to come because of how much I enjoyed it. So I think it should stand the test of time, but you let me know in the comments what you think. Now, on to the reviews. So, Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 93%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it a 98%, and IMDb gave it a 74%. Right off the bat, IMDb, what are you doing? You are way too harsh. 74% is nowhere near where this belongs. I honestly agree with the critics. 93 to a 98 is very high. 98 is incredibly high, but in the 90s, I definitely think it does deserve to be, because it honestly is a really good movie. Even nitpicking, I couldn't really pick out what I wouldn't like about this movie. Maybe like 1 or 2 actors could have done a slightly better job, and that's literally it. Like I can't think of anything that this movie did wrong. I just know that there's movies that did things better. So that's why it's in the 90s. Otherwise, it would be higher. And finally, the rankings. So, in 2023, shock, shock, it's going to be first above Barbie, and really that's because Barbie does have things that it didn't do correctly. It has some problems. Minor as they are, it has problems, while Air, I don't see any. So it was a very easy decision for me because Air is also something that I personally would rather watch 1,000 times over. Barbie was a good movie. I probably could watch it again, but it's not specifically, like, I'm not the target audience. So it was a clear choice for me. In the 2020s, it's going to be second, above Inside Out 2 and below Wild Robot. Now, Inside Out 2, masterpiece, really well done. Inside Out is slightly better, but both have a very interesting concept. It's watchable by all ages, even though it is designated for kids. So it was hard for me, but I just personally, again, I would rather pick up Air and watch it a bunch of times before Inside Out 2. I just think it is more interesting to me because it is based off a true story and it's done well, and everything about it is so informative that it also feels like I'm learning something. So 100% I feel like Air is above Inside Out 2, but I did have to put it below Wild Robot because that movie is incredible. Cinematography through the roof, so that's something that it does better than Air in general. Obviously it is an animation, but it is animated beautifully, which is a big bonus. And the concept itself is also very interesting. So let's say both of these are on par with everything, except Wild Robot has more cinematography. Let's just say that. That's really what made me have that decision, just because it's up there. So that's why it's in between these two. And in all time, it's going to be 7th, above My Cousin Vinny and below Toy Story. Now, I know 7th seems a little low, but we have a stacked list on my top 10. So it was really hard to kind of pick and choose, but I put it above My Cousin Vinny because it's, again, this is a movie that I would see myself enjoying a little more. But that movie is fantastic. I just think that some of the acting and some of the concepts it has are very simple and not really award-winning, while Air, I think, has amazing acting. It has great emotion. It has a great concept behind it. So I just think it has more to offer you than My Cousin Vinny does. And it's below Toy Story because that movie is a staple. It's iconic. It's the first of its kind. It's what started this whole animation revolution. So I couldn't see myself putting Air above it. Who knows? Maybe down the line I'll think about it a little more. I might adjust my list a little bit. But for now, I want to put it below Toy Story just because of how much that movie really gave to the world of animations. Now, once Toy Story 3 comes in, I'll probably just move Toy Story 1 down and move Toy Story 3 up because that's my favorite Toy Story. But for now, this is just where the list will be. That's all I have for Air. If you guys enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. What did you guys think of Air, if you've watched it, of course? Am I kind of overselling it? Am I thinking it's way better than it actually is? I don't know. I'm very passionate about this after watching it. I'm probably going to end up watching it again in the next few months once I have a little more downtime. But yeah, definitely check this movie out if you haven't already. Go check out my best friend, Mr. Majoritarian. He is also a movie reviewer. He does the same thing I do, but he has a little bit of a different opinion. But he does have the 10 essential aspects. He goes over the reviews. He has his own list that he ranks in the year, decade, and in all time. So definitely check him out. His link will always be in my description. And I hope you guys have an amazing night. Peace out.